Good evening, all. Welcome to Monday Night Axanar Confidential. It seems like it's been more than a week, but everything's it's been busy. Hold on one sec. Oh, you know what? Okay, that should clear up the. Sorry, I had more noises going into my ear. Hope you're all doing great. Wow, a lot has been happening. All good. I actually crazy good. Today was weird day. It was all good, except for one. Yesterday we got some bad news, and that's what we're going to spend the first 15 minutes talking about before we get to Mark Zicree. Mark Zicree is standing by. He's going to talk to us about Space Command tonight, which I'm really excited about. But in the meantime, I'm going to bring on my good dear friend, Don Gaffney. Don, welcome. Don is in Arkansas, Mississippi, some deep red state. Where are you again?
Alabama.
Yeah, they're all the same. Alabama, our neighbor, Georgia's neighbor to the west, and welcome, Don. You know, I'll have to have you back on another occasion where we can. It'll be under better circumstances, but tonight we're going to spend about 10-15 minutes talking about one of our dear friends, Denzel Miracle, and I've got photos of him up on display, rotating through. I scalped off his Facebook page. We did a piece on him in the Axanar blog today. Why don't you tell us what's happening with Denzel?
Well, back in November, of course, Denzel came with us out to Axicon, and I just want to preface by saying that was huge for him, and I am so glad now that he got to go, because he gushed about that. And in March, Denzel started complaining of dizziness and having problems with his eyesight, and he went in to get it looked at. And at first, if I'm remembering it correctly, they thought they'd found 3 tumors, and he was going to start chemotherapy. Then it turned out to be 13 tumors. His brain had literally been invaded with, I think it's called glioblastoma. And they realized at that point that it was inoperable, so they immediately started chemotherapy. And he went through the chemotherapy cycle, and unfortunately it didn't do anything. And not too long ago, they had said that the prognosis was now 4 or 6 weeks, but I spoke to Melissa earlier before I contacted you, and now they're saying that he's fading quick, and it's probably going to be 2 weeks tops. And the blessing is that at least one of the tumors is affecting his pain center, so he's not in pain.
Good. Well, there's something.
But Denzel is one of those characters that anybody that's been to a convention, especially on this side of the U.S., has met Denzel, and his enthusiasm for fandom, his love of Axanar. I mean, I can't tell you how much Axicon meant to him. I mean, to be able to sit in Chang's chair and to go on the Aries Bridge and to sit and have lunch with JG and Gary, to him that was going past being a fan. That was actually with this community, and this is one of the things that I love about the Axanar community, is that we're not just a bunch of people that like Star Trek. We are an extended family. And Denzel, he gushed. I mean, let's face it, Axicon was not Las Vegas. It wasn't one of the big things, but it was intimate, and it was a chance for him to sit there over salad and food in that little restaurant and sit there and actually talk to the people that he admired, and to go on sets and actually feel like he was back in the 60s on the show that he grew up with. So I'm glad he's taken that memory with him, because he really is an incredible person. And he's sadly leaving behind a wonderful family. He moved his kids and grandkids into the family home because he wants the home to stay in the family. And he's resting fairly comfortably. His short-term memory is really bad right now. And when you call Melissa, it has to hold the phone up. He's very weak at this point. But, he's a Klingon. and he's going out with a roar. And this community is losing somebody very special.
Well, the thing about Denzel is he's so passionate about his Klingon love for Klingons. So I know we got a kick out of hanging out with JG, and
I loved it.
yeah, and I today we asked JG and we asked Gary Graham to send message. JG has done a video message for Denzel. It's she's uploading it to our Google Drive, and then I'll pass it on to you, Don. I'll share that with you. But yeah, so what I did, is kind of interesting going through and seeing all the photos that Denzel has of all. It's all convention photos, right? I finally got down to some of his family. But I was like, there was so much he loves going to conventions. He loves dressing up. Here he is in one of his Chang-like costumes that I believe you had a hand in helping.
Yeah, I did. That was his, he did, his two favorites were his Tribble Hunter, which was his brown one with the cloak that had the tribbles sewn to it. And then, he got with me and he said, I really want to do a Star Trek 6. And I said, well, I can help you with that. And so I got him the materials. And then you were nice enough to send him some reference photos too. And I mean, that was when he put that costume together, he was just like, this is the costume. And for him to be able to sit in Chang's chair and to be in his, Klingon outfit and sit there with JG, that meant the world to him. And he loved Axanar. I mean, it breaks my heart that he's not going to get to, excuse me. He's not going to get to see, what's coming up. But
well, listen, I left a message for him today on Facebook and kind of intimating he's going to get to watch it with Richard.
Yeah, and it's funny you say that because I thought the same thing.
Yeah, I said something to the effect of, you'll be watching with Richard and Stovacor.
Yeah, and it's.
By the way, here's one of my favorite photos of all the photos I saw with him. Here he is in front of the Starsky and Hutch car with Michael Glazer and David Soul. I was like, damn, that's a photo op. That is I'm like, where is that convention? I wish I had gone to that one. I was like, it's a great photo of the three of them. It really is, Well,
and everywhere Denzel went, he ingratiated himself to people. People liked being around Denzel, I mean, and for him, he wasn't one of those cloying fans that, I'm going to follow you around and ask you a million questions.
Yeah.
He was just happy to be even when we went to our luncheon and we were all sitting around, he wasn't trying to play 1,000 questions. He was content just to sit there and listen to JG talk. And he even told me that. He says, I just like listening to him, and I mean, Denzel's a very humble individual. And
he's such a great guy. So anyway, I wanted to share this with the Axanar family. I think it's important, that we honor Denzel because he's just great fashion Star Trek fan, right? And it was great that I got to meet him, and because I know you've talked to about him before, and I know he was so proud of his costume, and I was happy to do what little. I mean, I sent him 3 photos of the back of Chang's costume. That's what he wanted, But it was great to see him. Listen, it's tough when we, and certainly I'm at the age now where you start losing people, and it's tough. It's tough because listen, Richard was the closest person to me I ever lost, and it's still to this day. There's a hole there, for with Richard and. What we can do is honor these people, and I think Axanar, we try and take care of our own, and in this case, it's I want everyone to go to his Facebook page and leave a message, leave something positive, leave something Klingon, whatever you want to do. But I've posted a couple times his Facebook, his name is Denzil, Denzel Miracle. That is his name. You find him on Facebook. I posted a link to his thread there. So please drop by, send word, and hopefully his wife will have a chance to read it to him, and it'll at least comfort him in time remaining.
And she does, because Denzel's eyesight is fading. She does go to his Facebook, and she does read the messages to him. So, that, and it's funny that even, in the waning moments, still his passion. This is still what, lifts him up, is his family and his love of the stuff that we do. And I think that the best way we can honor him is for us to continue doing what we're doing and keeping that original dream alive.
Absolutely.
Yeah. That's the best way to honor somebody.
Yeah, exactly. I agree. All right, Don, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Everyone, make sure you go to Denzel's Facebook page and leave him a message. And Don will get you back here to talk about Klingon costuming sometime before we see you at the shoot here in October.
Roger that.
All right.
Thanks much, Alec. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much. And thank you, everyone. All right, now we're going to, I'm going to let Don go here. And okay, take care, Don. And I am going to fire up. Oh, let me get Don. All right, let me fire up Scott. I'm going to bring in. Well, you got to hang up, Don. Let's see. I got to hang up. There we go. All right, there's. I'm going to bring in Mark Zickery now. So just hold on one second, and There. All right, hold on one second there, Mark. I'm going to bring you into our little. All right, I'm going to drop Mark down here. How you doing today, Mark? I'm just going to organize you here in the window.
Great.
It's always a little tough when I have to go from one to the next. All right.
Cool.
How's the weather out there in sunny California? Tell me it's sunny.
Warm. It's nice. It's good.
That is. All right, there we go. All right. Say hello to your wife for us.
I will. Alex says hello, Elaine. She says
Elaine,
hi
how
back.
you doing over there? Hope you're doing well. So everyone, like you to welcome Mark Zickery. Mark is no stranger to Star Trek, of course, or fan films, or independent filmmaking. So, Mark, why don't you tell us a little bit about your history? I mean, I know,
it's a fascinating subject,
but not everyone else knows about you and your background and how much you've worked in the industry, which is amazing. So tell us all about it.
Yeah. Sure. I grew up here in LA watching Star Trek and Twilight Zone and Outer Limits, the original versions of those shows. And that had a huge formative impact on me. I was on the Star Trek set when I was a kid. I got a Christmas present to that, and I met Nichelle Nichols when the show was on the air. So I was on the set of Turnabout Intruder. And as soon as I was old enough, I was a teenager, I started going to science fiction conventions and meeting the writers of those shows who were my heroes, Ted Sturgeon and Harlan Ellison and David Gerrold and Richard Matheson and you name it. I mean, all these amazing, amazing writers. And so I sold my first short story at 19. I attended the Clarion Writers Workshop. And I got out of UCLA with my art degree and then started writing the Twilight Zone Companion because I wanted to be a writer, producer in TV. And I thought, well, I better learn how to do that job. So I wrote the Twilight Zone Companion. And then by the time I was 22 or 23, I was writing for television. And I started in animation, writing for shows like Smurfs, He-Man, Super Friends, Real Ghostbusters, tons of animation. Then I jumped over to live action with Captain Power, which I developed for television. And then Star Trek The Next Generation, Friday the 13th, Deep Space Nine, Babylon 5, on and on. Hundreds of hours of TV as a writer-producer. And then I did Star Trek New Voyages, World Enough and Time, co-wrote and executive produced and directed that. And now I'm doing Space Command and other projects as well. So it's been quite a full life.
Well, so wow, that covers a lot. What did you do on Babylon 5?
I wrote one of the first season episodes, but I also started Joe Straczynski in television and live action. He had been writing animation, and when I developed Captain Power, they wanted me to story edit the show, but I was doing features at the time. So I said, listen, there's a guy, he's never done live action, but I'm going to guarantee him. And if you hire him as story editor, if he can't do the job, I'll step in and do the job. And that was Joe Straczynski. And those producers were Doug Netter and John Copeland, who he went on to do Babylon 5 with. So I wrote an episode of Babylon 5 the first season and studied their production machine very closely, because I'm the only writer who wrote for both Deep Space Nine and Babylon 5, and it was very instructive, very interesting to study how those shows were made.
I met John Copeland. He's an absolute gentleman, and now he has a olive ranch up in up in Santa Barbara, and we stopped by and bought some olive oil from him and got the whole pitch on it. Yes. But John Copeland is great. He's an absolute gentleman. I really liked him. He was really wonderful. While I want to say I met him before the Axanar lawsuit happened, and John Iacovelli he was the one. I guess it was just one day he was like, come on, we're going to go up and see John Copeland. I was like, yeah, okay, cool. John's another one of my favorite people in the world. He's so good. You got to see it. Have you ever been to his house?
No, I haven't.
Oh my God, he's over in like Glendale area. He's over in Glendale, and he has this. He lives on this street, and it's a real interesting street because all the houses are from like the 30s or 40s, and they were all identical houses, but each one done in a different architectural style. Same floor plan, but like one was done like Arabian, one was done craftsman, and it's crazy. And anyway, the interior of his house is just it's really awesome. Anyway, I love John. I love John and John and John. They're both great people. So, well, that's great. Captain Power, is that the one? Did you worked with Gary?
Yes.
Gary, what's his name that I'm looking for?
Yes, we're both blank.
He was the old Disney Imagineer.
Gary Goddard.
Gary Goddard. Yeah. Gary Goddard, right? Because he had Captain Power up in his office when I went. His office used to be like 2 blocks away from where I lived and Rob Burnett was working there, so I got to meet Gary, and so so that's great. Well, okay, so you did Deep Space Nine, that episode.
Far Beyond the Stars.
Far Beyond the Stars. Was that the only episode you did a story for Deep Space Nine?
Yeah. For DS9.
Well, I mean, that's enough. One of the best episodes. Yeah. As a matter of fact, I have a copy of the magazine, one of the prop magazines. I think I bought it from Doug Drexler. Cool. One of those mock-ups that they did.
Yes, they gave me one of those too, and it was great. No, it was Ted Sturgeon, Theodore Sturgeon, had been my mentor when I was a teenager, and so I was very interested in writing about that period when they were all writing for Galaxy and Astounding and Worlds of If and so forth. The fact that these great writers started, writing a penny a word, 5 cents a word, they did it for the love of it, and there wouldn't be a Star Trek or a Star Wars if not for those guys. So that was sort of the beginning of the idea, and but they were shooting that episode of DS9 and one of my episodes of Sliders the same week, and because I was a producer on Sliders, so I got to take a photo with both casts on the same day at 2 different studios with me in the same clothes. So that was pretty great. That was wonderful. And I was very lucky because there were so many iconic shows being done in those several decades that I was rising in television. So I was writing for all the major studios, all the major networks, and I was just going from script to script to script to script. There was one week where I wrote 2-hour scripts for 2 different shows simultaneously, and both got made. Yeah, almost everything I've written has gotten made. So I'm very lucky.
So okay, what year was Far Beyond the Stars?
I think that was 1997 or 98. Yeah, around there. Yeah.
Gotcha. So how did you then get involved with Star Trek New Voyages and World Enough and Time?
Well, I was on it because I'd written for both Next Gen and DS9. I was invited to be on a Star Trek panel. UCLA put on a science fiction convention, and the panel was with Walter Koenig and both Ron Moores, interestingly enough, Ron D and Ron B. And yeah, exactly, the VFX guy and the showrunner, and etc. It was basically someone from every generation of Star Trek, and this is just before JJ announced he was going to do the Star Trek movie. So they asked Walter what he thought of the future of Star Trek was, and he mentioned Star Trek New Voyages, and I'd never heard of it. This is just when Enterprise was winding down, and the audience hadn't really liked it very much. And so I sat with him afterwards. I said, "Tell me everything about this." And he told me about these fans who were making their own Star Trek fan films. And I went online and I watched their sequel to The Doomsday Machine, one of my favorite episodes. And I thought it was very, very interesting. I thought the effects were great, the costumes were great, the sets. The acting was a little shaky, and they were shooting mini DV. But I realized I could bring the level of the show up significantly by shooting high def, and also by writing for major actors, because Walter was about to go do his Chekhov episode that DC Fontana wrote.
Right.
And my friend Michael Reeves had come up with a Sulu episode that was terrific when they were going to bring back Star Trek in the 70s, Star Trek Phase 2, Paramount's version. And he had pitched that show, and they really loved it, but then they made the movies instead. So I remember that story, and his story was very different from what we ultimately wrote, but I said, "Hey, you want to write that?" And he said, "Yeah." So we wrote it together, ran it by James Cawley, who was running Star Trek New Voyages, went to George Takei's house, gave him the 3-page synopsis, and said, "This is the great Sulu episode that you deserve but never got." And it took 6 months to build the creative team. I cast Christina Moses, who's now one of the leads in A Million Little Things on ABC. She had never done television before. I cast her, and she's spectacular. And
yeah, she was really good in that.
Yeah, and Ian McCaig, who designed Darth Maul and Queen Amidala, lots of Star Wars characters, he was our designer on it. So he made the look for Barbarian Sulu and Sulu's daughter. And it was just, and then we shot for 12 days, 9 days in upstate New York, 2 days in LA, and one on the Excelsior. We built the Excelsior here. And then 1 day in Florida with the effects team. And it was a solid year of post-production. There were 700 visual effects shots. It was, I was working pretty much full-time for about a year and a half on it, and I'm very proud of it. Got nominated for the Hugo and the Nebula. It's really a jewel. I'm very pleased with it.
Yeah, no, I mean, listen, it is always been one of the great Star Trek fan films. It kind of set a bar for a long time. It set a bar that all of us shot for sure.
Yeah.
And so one of the things I got to mention this, because I don't even know if you know it. Well, were you the one that came up with the title for the episode?
It was no, that was Michael Reeves. Michael Reeves came up with that. Yeah, my co-writer.
Do you know the history of that name?
Tell me.
Because I heard it, like, I don't even know where I heard it somewhere. It was like, it had nothing to do with Star Trek, and they were talking about Ernest Hemingway, and they were talking about, I think it was For Whom the Bells Toll, and how they came up with that name. And he had like 100 other names, and one of them was World Enough in Time.
Wow, that's fun.
And I heard that, I go, you got to be shitting me. That's awesome.
That's
so
fun.
I just love the fact that it's a name that Ernest Hemingway. This is the great Ernest Hemingway connection to Star Trek. So
that's very fun.
Yeah, so
that's great.
That is interesting.
Also, and anyone who wants to see that episode, I have my own YouTube channel now, Mr. Sci-Fi, and people can actually watch that entire episode on Mr. Sci-Fi. And so it's really fun to have my own channel, as I'm sure you enjoy having your
love it.
presence.
Yeah,
really fun.
Yeah. So well, it was great. By the way, I was just telling someone my Ronald D. Moore story today. About when we did the Battlestar Galactica auctions, but I will tell you my Ronald B. Moore story, because how often do you get to tell a Ronald B. Moore story?
Yes.
For those of you who don't know, the two Ron Moores on Star Trek were Ronald D. Moore, the writer who then went on to do Battlestar Galactica and Outlander, and the visual effects producer, Ronald B. Moore. So he was in charge of the production side. He worked with Gary Hutzel as a visual effects supervisor, and they did like God knows how much Star Trek. It was just amazing. But anyway, because I know Doug Drexler, I had sold Doug Drexler's prop collection, everything he got from Star Trek back in 2010. He had been working me over for like 2 years to sell it. And then I started prop works with Battlestar, and I was like, you got to give me a year and I'll get to you. And then in 2010, we finally got to Doug, sold all of his stuff. He turned me on to Mike and Dee Sakuda, sold all of their stuff. And then it was like one after another, art directors and prop masters, and I just started selling everything. Everyone was Doug's friend. We were selling it at PropWorks. Anyway, Ronald B. Moore calls me. He goes, "Oh yeah, Doug said you sold all of his stuff, and I've got a bunch of stuff. Will you come out, and see it?" He was in Las Vegas, and I said, "I'm going to send my assistant out to see you, because sometimes they say they have stuff and all they have is scripts or whatever. So anyway, my assistant goes out there and comes back and says, Alec, I think he has the original art to the Silent Running movie poster. Now, Silent Running, as anyone knows, is like my favorite movie of all time. When I was a kid, I was just so ridiculously passionate about this movie. And I said, really? So I called Ron up and he goes, yeah, I'm pretty sure it's the original thing. So I drove out the next day. I'm like, I'm coming out to see you, Ron. I went out there, we popped it. It was in this crappy gold frame. It was just from the 70s. He'd had it on his wall for 30 years. We popped it out. Sure enough, it is the original art for Silent Running. And I'm like, this is my holy grail. I mean, of all the stuff I've owned in Star Trek, this is it. My holy grail. I said, I want it. And he goes, well, make me an offer. And I said, all right, let me think about it. I'm going to get back to you tomorrow. And the next day I called him. I said, I will pay you $10,000 for that. I'm thinking it's worth more, but I'm going to pay you cash. And he's like, okay. So meanwhile, I'm like, I sold something to get the money up for this, some part of my collection. And and he goes, Alec, the story was, he moved into Doug Trumbull's office back in the 70s. Like Doug Trumbull was, I'm sorry, no, that's not right. Doug Trumbull was next door to his office. They were both like in joint offices. And one day Trumbull left and Richard Edlund moved in. Edlund threw out all of Trumbull's shit that was left. And he had left the Silent Running movie poster art.
Wow.
And Trumbull threw it in the dumpster. So leaving work, Ron Moore sees the dumpster. He the dumpster was near the office. Look, and he's like, and he grabs it and takes it. So anyway, after I make the offer, he's like, Alec, look, I sent Doug Trumbull an email and gave him first right of refusal. I'm like, oh no. And he said, but I told him how much you were going to pay, so he's going to have to pay me that much. I'm like, all right, if he has to lose it to someone, Doug Trumbull kind of deserves it. Trumbull never got back to him. I guess he was pissed that Ron wanted him to pay $10,000. And Ron says, okay, I haven't heard from him. It's yours. Next day, in the car, drive 3.5 hours to Vegas, pick it up, and it's hanging in my wall. Crystal knows. We joke, we say, if the house ever catches fire, you grab the 3 dogs and the Silent Running painting on the way out.
Wow.
So anyway, that's my Ronald B. Moore story. But all right, what I want to do now is, before we start talking about it, is we are going to, let's see. We are going to, we're going to watch your video trailer, which I watched before, and it was awesome, for Space Command, and then you're going to tell us all about it. Let me just find it on my hard drive, right here in the desktop. All right.
The soar up there, that's what it's about. We fly. That's what we cameras do.
Ladies and gentlemen, I give you the first of what will soon be legions of contented synthetic workers. We suffered a catastrophic incident at one of our mining facilities in the asteroid belt. And in the chaos that followed, one of our pieces of equipment suffered a serious malfunction and has gone missing.
Kicking in the thrusters. Lieutenant Bradbury, match their speed.
Yes, sir.
I do not yet know what the ship might do if provoked.
You speak as if it were alive.
On occasion, machines are.
You've got him in your sights. You have to go after him.
You should not have saved my skin, Jack. He was counting on your humanity.
Doubt that I know my duty, Captain. You put it in your report.
You put that in yours. This is suicide.
That's the only way that we can rescue those hostages.
You'd vaporize everybody on Earth?
Our orders are wrong.
Slavery will stand to go badly.
You let all your people die.
Even when faith is shaken, one can always hold on to hope.
All right. That's Space Command. Wow, you've come a long way in the 3 years since I last saw Space Command.
Yes.
That's really awesome. So I mean, you've been working on this longer than I've been working on Axanar. So tell us how it started and tell us the genesis of Space Command.
Sure. Well, after I did the Star Trek episode with George Takei, I saw that there was a possibility of creating high-quality science fiction stories without a studio or a network, that you could actually do something equivalent, and in terms of ambition, in terms of execution. And so I just decided to see, I came up with the idea for Space Command. I wanted to do something hopeful and positive like Star Trek had been for me when I was a kid, because this is back when the shows, all the science fiction was very dystopic, very dark, when we had, Battlestar Galactica, which I liked, but we also had Oblivion and After Earth and all that run of things, Elysium. And I said, well, let's see if I can come up with something that will be a space-going show, but it'll be something that will inspire people and say we can have a future worth living in. We have to work for it and reach across boundaries and barriers and be compassionate and brave. And so I'd never raised money before, but I reached out to my audience, and I had a Kickstarter campaign, and I raised $221,000. And that was enough to open my studio and start writing and start building everything. And so we shot the 2-hour pilot with Doug Jones, Robert Picardo, Mira Furlan, Bill Mumy, Mike Harney, Bruce Boxleitner. And then we were going to, and I kept raising money. I started selling investment shares where people could buy them for $7,500 each. And that also gave me some money to work with. And essentially, we were going to close down the studio to shift all of our funds to post. And I realized I had enough sets and costumes and props to shoot 40 minutes of the second story as well, because I'd written the first 8 hours of the 12-hour season. And so we did. We rolled camera on the second 2-hour episode, and Space Command is a 12-hour season made up of 2-hour stories that kind of dovetail and form a larger arc. And so we cast Ferran Tahir, who was in JJ's Star Trek movie and Iron Man, and James Hong from Blade Runner and Big Trouble in Little China, and John Hennigan, who's a very well-known wrestler. He's in things like Glow. And we shot 40 minutes of that. And so over time, we've been in post-production, and now we're ramping up to shoot the rest of that second 2-hour story. So we've raised over $1 million total, and we're still selling shares, still raising money, and building creatures now, building an alien hibernation ship, just continuing the adventure while I'm pitching the show actively to Netflix, Amazon, all those guys. But my thought is I'm just going to keep making Space Command, and I'm also creating other shows as well with Rock Neil Bannon and Mark Fergus and his partner Hawk Ostby. They run The Expanse, and Rock, of course, created Farscape, and Alien Nation and SeaQuest and Defiance. So I'm doing something called the Showrunners Network, where I'm creating 6 new shows that we're going to shoot all 6 pilots, then take those as a slate of shows, but to the buyers. But meantime, with Space Command, we're continuing to roll cameras, so we're in post-production on the 2 hours. I've just posted the first hour of the pilot on my YouTube channel, Mr. Sci-Fi, and the first 2 hours has 1,900 visual effects shots, and it's huge. Yeah, I know, and so that's why it's taken so long. And but we've got amazingly talented people. It's phenomenal, and we're so we have all these wonderful actors, and in the future we're going to have Ethan Phillips and Armin Shimmerman and Gigi Edgley and J.G. Hertzler and Christina Moses from A Million Little Things and so forth. So we now have the comic book, the novel. We're doing the radio play shortly. What's a prequel? And we're continuing to make our show. And anyone who wants to buy shares will get a portion of my producer's net profits when the show sells. So it's a very interesting way of doing television, and something I really like. It's great fun.
So what kind of response have you gotten from the Netflix and Hulus of the world?
They're very interested, but you have to reach a point of critical mass. And we're also doing a project now with someone in the House of Lords in England. He was his parents were activists in the anti-apartheid movement in the early 60s. So Elaine was hired, my wife was hired to write the movie based on his memoir, and we're producers on it. And recently, Lord David Putnam, who produced Chariots of Fire, read the script and loved it and said this should be a 6-hour miniseries. So now we're building toward walking that into Netflix. We're reaching out to Peter Morgan, who created and runs The Crown. We have a producer aboard who's friends with him, to see if he'll come on as our partner. If we sell that as a series to Netflix, that gives us the credibility. Then, again, it's sort of like network and studio and VOD executives are not like regular people. They're not. They don't watch something and just say, "Wow, that's really cool. I want to have it on my network." They have to. They're very insecure, and so you have to have something that they feel will justify their decision. And so it's fascinating. So the freedom to be able to make it. I mean, for instance, with Rockne O'Bannon and Mark Fergus and Hawk Ospey, one of the reasons they want to work with me is because they love the fact that we don't have to wait. There's no reason not to just make things, and you just need to build, the army. And I love that. I mean, my background, my degree is in painting, sculpture, and graphic arts. So when it comes to visual effects or sets or creatures or any of that, I love all of that. And in fact, we're having a spacesuit contest where people can build spacesuits and send them to us, either from our designs or from their own. And one of the categories is you build it for $100 or less, entirely from parts from Home Depot. And we're about to announce a futuristic car contest where people will send futuristic car designs to us, and the one we pick will ship my Toyota Corolla to them, and they will turn it into that car.
Oh my God!
Yeah, we'll then use in Space Command. And so again,
that's awesome.
The world is my partner, and I love that, And so so now it's just and we just shot a scene with Nichelle Nichols, which for Space Command, which was great.
Oh, good.
I met her when I was 10, so it was really wonderful to be able to come full circle with her.
By the way,
yeah.
Behind you, now I can see it. The fans can't see it because we've cropped you, but I can see on the bigger one that up behind your left shoulder, above your phaser from Discovery, you have a framed letter from Gene Roddenberry.
Right, on Star Trek Stationery from when the show was on the air. It's terrific.
And what is that framed letter?
It's a letter. It's something.
I think I can show people.
Yeah, it's very fun. No, I always loved that stationery, and so it's basically a letter written saying, apparently someone had written them saying, can I take photos of Star Trek off the screen? And he said, no, that's against the law, but here's a catalog of our merchandise that you can buy.
So Gene, that's so Gene. Yeah. This is my wall of photos and signatures from all these people who I admire, and it really inspires me, And I just love science fiction. That's why Mr. Sci-Fi is so fun, because I can just talk about science fiction and review things, and just anything I want to talk about I can, or I can post different TV episodes I wrote, whatever interests me. What's your favorite science fiction right now that's on any media?
I like Westworld a lot. I felt the second season was not as strong as the first. I also like Man in the High Castle.
Oh, love Man in the High Castle.
Yeah, it's a great show. And then The Expanse, I think it's a very interesting show. I've been reading novels as well. I think there's a lot of great stuff out there. But the fascinating thing is that I'm also saying, okay, who is on these shows that I'd like to work with? And as I can reach out to actors now and just say, you want to be part of what I'm doing, and they're very impressed. And I've been talking to Gates McFadden and Jonathan Frakes, and so on and so forth. Nana Visitor, and it's basically whoever I want to work with. No one has said no, and it's nice.
That's great. That's really great. Yeah, well, I find that the Star Trek people, they've been so accommodating in the Star Trek, certainly in the Star Trek fan films up until CBS put the kibosh on that.
Right.
They've been, but I think it was wonderful that first Walter and then George, and then Denise, took part in Star Trek New Voyages. I think that was wonderful. And listen, your World Enough in Time is a seminal piece of fan fiction, and I will never forget. I forgot where I read it. but they were talking about Joss Whedon was talking about fan fiction, and
Mm-hmm.
and he said he was watching World Enough in Time in his kitchen, and he
Yes.
cried
Yes.
at the end.
Well, the story on that is very, very funny, which is that that was in Rolling Stone, and
Oh, okay.
and how that gave him the idea to do Dr. Horrible's sing-along blog. And the way he saw that episode was, I was at Comic-Con a few years ago, and I was standing in the Dark Horse booth, and I noticed that the guy next to me was Joss Whedon, and I happened to have a DVD of World Enough in Time, which we just completed. So I said to him, "Well, are you a Star Trek fan?" And he said, "Well, I don't dress in uniform or anything, but yeah." I said, "Well, I think you might enjoy this," and I handed it to him. And so I think that's
Wow.
how he was exposed to it. So I was very proactive, to say the
Good
least.
for you.
And but well, yeah, and that's how you make stuff happen. But I knew inevitably that Paramount was going to shut things down. I just know how they think. And it was funny because before I did World Enough in Time, by the time we got going on it, J.J. Abrams had announced he was going to do the Star Trek movie. So I actually had lunch with him, and I said, "This is what I'm planning to do. Do you have any problem with that?" And he said, "No, I'm okay with it." So because I didn't want to put in a year and a half and have them shut me down before we finished, and because. And again, that's one of the things that led directly to me doing Space Command, because I own Space Command, so there's no way
Right.
that anybody can pull my plug. It's like IP, owning IP is so important, intellectual property. And in fact, I'm writing a book now. It's already been sold. It's called Greenlighting Yourself, and it's about exactly what you and I have been doing, which is, you just basically, if you decide you're going to do something, then it's just a question of logistics.
Right.
Most people are waiting for other people to give them permission, or other people to somehow wave the magic wand, and they spend their life in longing. I think that's a mistake. I think it's, just build your team. I mean, science fiction is so welcoming, and it has so many good people, and the actors go to the conventions and you can meet them, and there aren't those walls between the people making the show and the people watching the show. Science fiction is rare in that way.
It really is. It's so interesting doing what I've done, because you wind up finding yourself in a very weird spot, because we're all fans, right? And so, I'm not the type of fan to go up and fanboy on anyone, although I did on Stan Lee. But I've been fortunate, you know the way it is. You work in it, and then it becomes kind of like, oh yeah, well, that's William Shatner or whatever. You get used to it. The flip side of that is people treating you the way you treat the stars. And I've had people come up. I had a guy come up to list. I had a fan who sends me, I'm on his Christmas card list now. I was standing next to Gary Graham talking to Gary. This is 2015 or 2016. We're at Las Vegas at the convention. And this guy comes up and he sees Gary first. So he goes up to say hi. He goes, "Hi, Gary Graham." And then he turns and he sees me and he goes, "Oh my God, Alec Peters." And I'm like, really? That's Gary Graham. But it's so weird, because that's not who I am. I'm like, dude, I'm a fan like you. I'm like, this is Gary Graham, or as we call him, Gary fucking Graham. But it's weird to get that kind of. But the what you're saying is the beauty is the democratization of science fiction and fandom, and it's like you can be a fan of one thing and on the other side of the camera on the other, and it's how many people who are doing Discovery right now are like, I grew up a Star Trek fan, right?
Yeah, a lot of them.
Yeah,
and but it's always been like that. It's like when I was 15, 16 years old, I started going to conventions, and there was Gene Roddenberry, for instance, or DeForest Kelley, whomever. And they were just very accessible, and so we also have a sense of wanting to pay it forward too, So that's why when I go to conventions, I'm very kind and polite and accessible, because that's appropriate. And it's funny because Ray Bradbury was one of my great friends and mentors in the last 10 years of his. But Ray was the same thing. He started as a fan. He was writing for fanzines when they were Mimeo, And this is back in the 1930s, and people like Henry Kuttner and Lee Brackett and Forrest Ackerman were mentors and friends to him, and so we're all in that wonderful community of science fiction that allows. I mean, everyone in science fiction, we're in science fiction because we're all weirdos one way or another, and that's a good thing. That's a good thing, And I think that it's wonderful that we have a place where we can all be together and be friends and it's a family, and I really like that about science fiction.
It is. I tell you, one of the coolest things was, I mean, when I was a kid, I was kind of geeky when I was a kid. And I moved when I was in this 8th grade, between the 7th and 8th grade, we moved to Long Island. And I met a kid there, Billy Bianco, who was a Star Trek fan. And it was like, you like Star Trek? I like Star Trek. I never met anyone, another kid in my age.
Yeah.
And we became great friends. And so what's so wild was, like in 2014, right after we released Prelude, he sends me an email. Haven't heard from this kid in 40 years. And he sends me an email. And he's like, Alec Peters, I saw you in Axanar. And it was so cool. And then we got together and and it was just like, wow, it was really, really cool. But we are all geeks. Right, and it's our shared passion for this this genre and the media that make it up, whether in all sorts of forms. Listen, you're doing you said you're doing a radio play. Listen, we're doing it a full length audio drama of the full Axanar script. Since we can't make a movie of it, we might as well. When I have the actors in, it's like, here's the script we're going to shoot, and here's the one you're going to read.
That's great.
And
great.
Yeah, I think it's great. So I'm totally excited for everything that you're doing, because you're kind of you're shining the light and showing us the way.
Yes.
I mean, because listen, Axanar is just the first step. We'll see what happens, but we've already got 2 things planned after Axanar. I want to get Axanar in the can and finish it and all of that. But I've got other things, and you're the kind of the role model. We're looking, say, hey, look what Mark Zickery is doing. Let's see if we can. Let's see.
Well, it's fun because when I wrote the Twilight Zone companion, Rod Serling shot it at MGM, and he had access to every costume, prop, set, everything made for any MGM production. And of course, he used all that great stuff from Forbidden Planet, Robbie the Robot and the Future Car and all that stuff. So when I was a producer on Sliders, the first question I asked was, do we have access to everything that Universal has built? And they said, no one's ever asked us that question. We'll check.
Wow.
And they came back and said, yeah, with a very few exceptions, yes. So we were using stuff from 12 Monkeys and Jurassic Park and on and on. And so now that I've got my own studio, I'm very much of that same mindset. So, and I love the fact that you can turn things around and redress them and utilize them and make, and exactly like in Wrath of Khan, where they took the Enterprise bridge and redressed that and did some things, moved some pieces around, did some things, and all of a sudden it's the Khan's ship, And I love that stuff. And to the degree that I live in a neighborhood where people throw out stuff that's perfectly good. They want people to pick it up. So like for instance, I have a spaceport that I'm going to shoot against green screen, and I have a matching white leather sofa, 4 white leather chairs, and a white end table that I'm going to put a monitor in with graphics of departing spaceships. And that was all stuff that people threw out on my block. And it's just like, wow, cool. And then someone got rid of a 55-inch TV the other day, and I just plugged it in, and the screen is broken, but it has this incredibly neat pattern when you turn it on that is perfect for the inside of an alien spaceship. And so again, it's sort of like, it's just like this huge erector set or Lego set. It's so much fun. And to be able to say I build spaceships and alien creatures is, I'm still that kid who was enthralled when I went on Star Trek sets and got to sit in the captain's chair. That was phenomenal back when I was 10. Amazing.
Yeah, listen, I get a kick out of the people who come into our studio and they walk on our bridge, which looks like this, and they're like, they turn into little kids, right? Can I take a picture in the captain's chair? Of course you can take a picture. What asshole would let you come onto a Star Trek bridge and not take a picture in the captain's chair, right? Go ahead, get your ass in there. I'm always taking pictures of everyone who visits, because we all turn into little kids when we're around Star Trek, and
it's magic. It's magic. It
is. Well, listen, Mark, it has been absolutely wonderful having you on the show.
Thanks.
We really appreciate it. Thanks for coming out. We wish you the best with Space Command. We hope you'll come back and tell us more whenever you hit your next milestone. Yeah. Everyone, go to his website, his YouTube channel.
Sci-fi. Yeah, Mr. Sci-Fi.
Mr. Sci-Fi on YouTube. Go there and you can see the first hour of Space Command, huh?
Yeah, absolutely free. You bet. Terrific. Well, thanks, Alec. I've really enjoyed it. It's been a lot of fun.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And we will see you again soon.
Great.
Cheers. All right, everyone. Make sure you go and definitely go and Sea Space Command, and I'm gonna bid farewell to Mark. Mark, you take care, and bye-bye. All right, so listen, great to have Mark. Mark's such a great guy, kind of a legend in the sci-fi circles. I'm so happy to have him here. Listen, we want to have guests like that on all the time because I get a kick out of it. You know, that's great. Before we leave, a couple little things. One, if you are a donor, Ares Digital is in beta right now. Go and test it out. We got one bug which Jerry just sent me an email about, so I'm hoping that he solved it. That's okay. So let's see. Go to Ares Digital. The link's on the homepage of the Axanar website, up top in the nav bar. We know there's a bug that Jerry may or may not have fixed by now. If you go to reset your password and it says invalid password token or something like that, I forget what it is. Go log in, hit the forgot the password, and that one works. That's the big bug that Jerry's working on right now. But we're getting close. Real excited about that. And then day before yesterday, I got a package in the mail. And awesome. Whoever sent it to me, I don't know who sent this to me. Hopefully one of you will reveal yourself. But someone sent me a MAGA hat, one that I can actually wear. Yeah, baby, make Alec Garth again. Someone sent this to me, and so thank you very much. You absolutely made my day. It was a lot of fun, and I really appreciate it. We were just laughing about it. It's like, oh my God, I could never have the guts to actually make this for myself, but I'm going to make it for me. Thank you very much. That it is really, really awesome. And Stogie's saying how Dreamy is doing great. Yeah, I think we're going to help Stogie there keep Dreamy, who was the foster dog we had for months, who I love, who's just an amazing, amazing dog. We've got our bunny, our foster bunny that we're giving away. Okay, I got it. Two great things. I have to deal. I have to deal with the haters from time to time, and one of them, Gabe Kerner, who works in the VFX industry, has just this guy. He just won't stop texting me, and so. Two interesting things he texts me. One, he texts me that I'm unlicensed to do dog rescue in Georgia. I'm like, oh my God. Really, dude? Don't you have better things to worry about than who's rescuing dogs in Georgia? First of all, you don't need a license to rescue dogs in Georgia. You need a license to be an official dog rescue and do the things an official dog rescue does, which we don't do. So nothing says I can't stop on the side of the road and pick up a dog. Nothing says I can't foster a dog. Nothing says I can't transport dogs from the pound to a rescue or whatever, all which are things that a rescue does, or are called dog rescuing. So no, I don't need it. And why don't you fucking worry about something else? This is the same guy who said I do cocaine. And anyone who knows me knows I'm about as straight as they come. I'll drink, 2 drink max, but I've never touched the white stuff in my life. And I was like, man, the depths at which the haters are going to try and talk shit about me. Oh yeah, I also supposedly, according to Carlos, ripped off a widow, which is so absurd. And as a matter of fact, it's a widow who I've done business with, who I was talking to on email this week. So all that bullshit, it's just, but that was funny. So I got a few laughs, a few chuckles out of those idiots this week. But today, big news today. And I can't even tell you, but I tell you, I got this phone call from Hollywood. And it was someone I hadn't talked to in 5 years. 5 years, let's see. 2000, yeah, probably about 5 years. And had pitched some work for, and didn't pan out. Came back to me because he knows that they made a mistake and they wanted to do work with me. He wanted to do work with me. And it's huge. I can't tell you about it. But I went into Crystal and I was like, I did the Megan Rapone thing. What is the girl from the soccer? I was like, yes. As they say, when the Lord closes one door, he opens another, or he opens a window, or whatever that saying is. So something really, really good happened today. And I've got to put a PowerPoint together and shoot it off. Hopefully once it's all said and done, I'll be able to announce it, but it is big. The problem is next summer's San Diego Comic-Con is part of the marketing campaign, which is also going to be the release of the next 2 episodes of Axanar, which means I'm going to be really busy at San Diego next year. So anyway, really good news. Back to all of you. Listen, I haven't had a chance. I was so wrapped up talking to Mark. I haven't had a chance to look at the chat. I'm seeing all the regulars there, and thank you so much. Cat Slave, DKG Custom, Silver Bullet, Eccleston's Angel, James Belt, Lynn Marie Panzerino, Jim Westbrook, John Tesler. God, all the regulars are out there. Trey from Axanar Comics, of course. John Kraft. You guys, look at all you guys. Scott Voigt's there. Adega Outlaw. Troy Light. God, just like all the regulars. Thank you all for coming out. If I missed your name, I am so... Oh, Michael S. Carter. Is Michael Weir here? Weir, are you here? He called me up today. He was so funny. He didn't. He had something to tell me that he thought I would be upset about it. I wasn't at all. I was like, I told you so. So love Michael Weir. He's awesome. Oh yeah, I got to show you this. So let me show you a couple. Let me get rid of that. Let's see. Let's do this. We're going to duplicate this. Okay. And I'm going to get rid of this. Boop. Yep, get rid of it. And I don't think it's a drag and drop thing, is it? Oh, yeah, it is. OBS is drag and drop. All right, if you're a De Medici donor on Patreon for Aries Studio, thank you very much. You are a $20 or more a month donor to Aries Studio. Thank you, thank you, thank you. This is the patch we're making for you, courtesy of Alexander Richardson, the Axanar De Medici patron. So thank you. We're excited about that. Hopefully you are too. I said, hey, Alexander was the one who said, because I wanted to give everyone the crew patch. He's like, no, the crew patch is for crew. I said, oh, I wanted to give it to the De Medicis. He said, I'll make them a special patch. So that's bam. Alexander Richardson. How cool is he, right? So there's that. And then I said, hey, what about Starfleet Judge Advocate General? Now, I'm not crazy about this patch because it's not quite in line with our other patches, but he's got a good look going here. So we're going to work on this one, and then this will be another one. I kind of feel like we should have had one of these during the lawsuit. Yeah. That's the other one we're working on. So working on a lot of things, going balls to the wall. Good news about production. Let's talk about production before I sign off. Got a meeting with a line producer tomorrow. Got a DIT, which is a digital ingest technician. Bing Bailey, who is our DIT in LA. I said, Bing, I want you to come out of here, but how about you let someone else do the grunt work? And he's like, yeah, sure. This guy's awesome, Star Trek fan. He does a lot of stuff on set. We're slowly building up a great crew. Got 2 camera operators this past week. Real excited about the crew that we're getting for October. So we are working away. Can we make a patch for Stokey's water pump rescue? No. Sorry. But you can talk to Alexander Richardson about that. Oh, God, excuse me. Has everyone hit the like button? We only have 48 likes, and there's 60 of you here. So come on. Some of you are slacking. Let's get it going. John Tesler says, check my Facebook PMs. All right, let's check my Facebook PMs. Oh, I do need to mention, yes, the short film that the kids made, Nexa Mundi, won an award. Alien Territory. This is another one. Alien Territory. That's a different student fan film. Has been accepted into the Circle City Film Festival in Indiana. That's cool, pretty cool for one of the student films that we shot. Congratulations. That's really cool. And then Jonathan Lane wants me to mention Interlude GoFundMe. They're $500 from $10,000. And then what else? Is there any other? Let's see. Yeah, we got that. And okay, it looks like that's all the news for now. So that's it for now, everyone. Thank you so much for watching. You can, as always, remain on here. And look, my dogs are conked out at my feet here, down here in the basement. And thank you so much. Make sure you read Axanar Comics and subscribe to their YouTube channel. And thank you so much for joining us. We will see you next week. Friday night Axanar rewatch party hosted by Stogie and Trey, I believe. Raymond Moore says, Alec, like I said before, they're jealous of you. You're living in the life they could only dream of if they weren't living in their parents' basement. And Val Eccleston Angel says, Alex saw the nephrologist today. Kidney injury is healing nicely. We're glad to hear that, Val. Good, very good to hear that. Anything else? Let me just see if there's anything. Oh yeah, Troy Light says Starfleet Waterworks, because when the water is flowing, there ain't no growing. Okay, we need a better name, better slogan than that. Starfleet Janitorial Corps. We take it out, way out. You guys are on fire. All right, guys, I'm out. I'm gonna go up. I'm gonna get some work done. I've been working all day. I got this. If I wasn't working enough, I got this PowerPoint I've got to do. It's not really a pitch. It's kind of a pitch, but super excited about this. And it's like 50 times more exciting than a coffee shop. So I'm real excited, and I can't wait to share it with you guys when I can, because you will all be interested in it. Well, maybe not all. Most of you will be interested in it. And Don Gaffney, thank you so much for coming on. Everyone, make sure you go and send your regards to Denzel Miracle on his Facebook page. That's really important. Go to Aries Digital, check it out. Let us know how it's working for you. And until next week, Friday, Axanar Rewatch Party with Stogie and Trey on Friday nights. Make sure you're there for that. And then next week, we'll have another Axanar Confidential. I'm going to try and get Alexander Richardson to record an interview with me, and we will feature his interview next night. Okay? So everyone, thank you so much. And as always, live long and prosper. And thank you so much. We love you guys. Cheers.